All right, it's John Wood here, the founder of Rageheart with Rageheart podcast number, I think we're up to 8. Rageheart 8, let's just call it 8. And I'm here with Gayla, one of the first clients who went through Rageheart, the Rageheart Academy. We had a chat a few weeks ago just to find out. I wanted to learn a bit more about what her experience was like, and she had some really cool stories. And I thought it'd make a great podcast episode to get her on the show and get her to share a little bit about how things had worked out for us. So, yeah, Gayla, how you doing?
Shane. Yeah, thank you. Great to be here.
Yeah, no, it's great we can connect. So to begin, I think because no one really is going to know anything about you or who you are, I think that's probably the best place to begin is maybe just tell the listener a little bit about yourself and, where you're coming from and what you do.
Okay, what I do? Yeah, so my background is nursing.
Mm-hmm.
Always been very, very interested in health and wellness, and in my own journey as well. It's been so far, really, I guess I'm about 31 years ago, I dedicated my life to my spiritual life, to wanting to be enlightened. I thought I could do that. And there I am, still trying. But anyway, yeah, so when I'm a monastic and an intuitive empath and all that. So when I heard you talk about your program and how it you use the term move stuck energy, and so I had been coming out of a 23-year relationship that ended pretty roughly, and the last episode, the final event, I thought was life threatening, and so I had been 5 years out of that, but really had just went on a 5-year sabbatical, stopped all socialization, no drinking, no working out. I'm athletic, no walking a little, running my business was about all I could do. And I just dove into my spiritual life and went deep. But I was having trouble. My body was starting to give me signs that this was not, I had to get moving. I had to, adrenal fatigue and all kinds of stuff. So when you spoke about that, I felt like that's what I really need to do was move stuck energy. So I started on your program, and it's been a great help, because what I had done in that last episode was disassociated. And that wasn't the first time. When marriage ended, a 15-year marriage, when that ended, that was also a rough ending, how patterns repeat themselves. But I disassociated then as well. So, and then, this program of getting back into your body and into safety is what worked for me. Like, you just can't believe it's what I needed. It's just like what the doctor ordered right at the right time. So,
yeah. So what do you mean by, if I was listening to this and I wasn't really familiar with this field, what do you mean by disassociating?
Well, that's the first experience I had with that, and I really didn't know what it was. But when my marriage ended, I was kind of in just the whole discombobulated, in shock, confused, through that trauma. But I was driving down the street, and all of a sudden, I was looking down at my hands on the wheel. And I mean, I'm going like, oh my God, I don't know why I can see my hands down there, but, maybe I better pull over. So that was the first subjective experience of being in a disassociated state where I was really actually not even in my body, and I was looking down at it. My nerves, it was depression, emotionally, breaking down, and physically, again, just trying to get grounded. Back in that day, we used the term getting grounded, and doing grounding work and trying to feel my feet touching the floor, and couldn't. And when I looked in the mirror, I couldn't see myself. I could see nothing in the mirror. It was a really bizarre experience, but That was the first time. And then this time I wasn't quite in the dark with knowing what was going on. But also I really was not in, just couldn't be around people, and people bothered me, and all socialization had to end, and so yeah, I don't know if that explains it, but that's what it's like.
Yeah.
When you disassociate.
I mean, I've never, I'm just sort of more just for someone listening to this that they might be like, well, what's that? Or they've heard about it, but they're not super familiar with it. For me, I've never had it to that degree. I've never, seen myself from outside of myself so far. For me, it's always, it's probably more of a shutdown. It seems to manifest in different ways. I can get very, 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 if I meditate too much or do something like that, I get very tired and I lose all motivation for most things. I feel calm, but I'm just like, I just can't be bothered doing anything. And for so long, I thought that was like a spiritual thing. And I remember learning from one of my teachers. He's like, it just sounds like your nervous system shutting down. Because like when we be present for too long, too much in one go, it can open things up a bit too quickly. And the nervous system's like, hey, bro, this is too much. So we're going to we're going to squeeze everything down. And, so that's how it comes out for me. But yeah, I have heard of people completely coming outside of their body and seeing themselves from a disassociated or a disconnected point of view. So.
Yeah, I just had someone describe to me her disassociation. And she's like, if I feel, in a group and I feel stressed, I'm like a wallflower. I'm over on the other side against the wall or in the corner, or even leave the room, and they don't even know it. They just see my body sitting there. And so that's also another type, an experience of disassociating. And, but I know what you're talking about with the fatigue and all that. Would not, and I still don't know if I can. When I'm really tired, I don't know if I'm depressed or tired, which one came first. I can't tell the difference between depressed and tired. So,
right.
But I just know I'm shut down, can't move. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I find for me, like if I'm, fairly well rested, I haven't just had a big plate of rice or sugar or something like that. Like if I check off those sort of usual things, if I've had a good sleep the night before, and then I'm still, like if I sit down then and just feel for a while, I can start to slip into sleep. And so I think sometimes if I'm tired, I guess I'm just sleepy. But then sometimes it's like, no, I think that's one of the flip side to some of these tools inside Rageheart is they're so good at opening the system up that, it can almost be too much. And that's part of the game is starting to feel when I'm at that level, when I'm at that edge, and then be, okay, now let's take a break. Let's go look at some flowers or something, or I don't know, drink a cup of tea.
Yeah, exactly. Getting some solitude, doing some journaling, getting in nature. Just, stop it all and breathe for a minute. And but then I do the practice like what you have taught, and just sometimes my mind is running a story, and I'm like, I'm like starting to cry, and the story's going on, and it's this big drama, and all of a sudden, I'm like, wait a minute, and I feel my big toe and get into my body and look around, and I'm like, none of that's even going on. This whole story just cleared and ended by doing that, and it's like magic. Right there, then and now. You don't have to buy anything or go anywhere. You can just tune in, get it down, settle down into your body, and look around it. There's no lions, tigers, and bears. There really isn't.
Yeah.
There really isn't a knife in my back either.
Yeah. You mentioned last time we chatted about being in a supermarket and then using this technique to. Do you remember that story?
Yeah, I had forgot about that. Yeah. Oh, wow. That was really interesting. The supermarket, it was so packed, and everybody was rushing around and just, and I just had to stop, and right there, it's holding onto the cart. I just stopped and got into my body and right in the present space. And it seemed like they were crazy, just like nobody was even there. It seemed like a crazy, disconnected group that were just, I don't know, they were in such a hurry to get somewhere else and to push and shove and be so miserable. And I was able to just like, it was surreal to see them all charging around, pushing, miserable. Oh, wow. And then the beauty of being able to just get into my being so present for right there within myself and not being part of that, coming out of that. That's disassociated right there. All of them charging around to be somewhere else and being miserable where they are and don't even know they're there. I mean, that's disassociation in consciousness.
Yeah. Yeah. It's kind of like this whole game is like there's levels to it. I guess an extreme version is coming out of the body and seeing it from out. But then what most people walk around, and I still spend some of my time in this. It's not like I'm not perfect at this, but yeah, we walk around and we're not really there, here, doing whatever we're doing. I'm sort of here, but my mind's over there somewhere. And it's this, I've been learning about this in my plant medicine psychedelic work, where it's a lot of this work is bringing the body and, the mind, which have been so separate for so long in our lives, and bringing them into alignment. It's not about getting rid of the mind or getting rid of the body, but bringing them so they perfectly match up. The mind says what the body says what the mind says, going in the same, and then the soul, if you want to bring that into it. So yeah, walking around the supermarket thinking about worrying about something, you're not really there. So
yeah, it's almost like you can see that they have stories going on, and that's what's going on. And meanwhile, they don't want to be there, and they're not there. In their whole mind, they're somewhere else. And all it's like, I don't know where everybody is. I know their bodies are here, but they're not.
Yeah. Yeah, it's so common. When I get into this, I'm like, this is still not mainstream yet from what I can see, but it's like, man, this is I'd say almost everyone has some variation of it, expresses in different ways. They end up with different symptoms. Sometimes it's physical, sometimes mental, psychological, but everyone seems to have some amount of this fundamental disconnection. And then life is like, we're just trying to get back to that somehow.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, when you do that monthly rumble, and then you just bring it, like all of those stories, and it all shuts up, and you just bring it all to like a stress-free right here. It's so perfect.
Yeah.
It really calms me down. So it's great stuff.
Yeah. But when you started, because remember I think you listened to the podcast with Paul Austin at the Third Wave, so on psychedelics and sort of my background with this. And then you came over. I remember we had a phone call, I think, early on, and maybe you'd done a little bit of it, but it was like, this isn't working. Like, I don't really know what's going on. And you were on the fence with the whole thing. Like, tell me a little bit about that.
Yeah. So, I was thinking that this was going to be, like some aerobic move chi, move energy, the opposite, really. Like, I got to get this chi moving. I'm stuck. Can you help me? And this is slow and nothing happens. And you were like, maybe I'll think about speeding up the program, but okay. And then it was like right after that. So I had cosmetic surgery, and the anesthesia, I think, is what, because I had started for 3 months, I had been working with psilocybins, which creates new pathways in the brain and new synapses and connections and all that. And then I had anesthesia. I'm assuming that's what did it, but I had a complete nervous system melt. And I didn't know what happened. It hit me like a lightning bolt, and the force of a lightning bolt. And I couldn't, I remember emailing you and saying, what do? I gotta regulate my nervous system. Now I'm like, I can't control this, regulate this. And you said, Gayla, you can't regulate it. Congratulations. You're. And that day I had tuned into Rageheart for that day's lesson, and you happened to be teaching about a functional freeze and explaining it. And I went, oh my God, that's what I've been in for 5 years. And I just broke out of it. And
Mhm.
thank God for your program, because I wouldn't know what to do. No idea.
Yeah.
You have no idea what that feels like with 100% of a melt. And
Yeah.
so, yeah, using external resources, which you had taught in the second lesson, and then knowing what it was, and that saved me. And then getting in and doing the work that just going through each day um, of getting calmed down in my body, and was saved me.
Mhm. So you mentioned like knowing a bit about what happened, because there's sort of two parts to it that I see as like the techniques or the practical stuff, and then there's the knowing what functional freeze is. And it sounds like having that understanding, even aside from the techniques, just knowing, oh, I think this is what's happening. Even that sounds like that was helpful.
Yeah, very helpful. I had just joined your program like a few weeks before I had surgery, and I had bought Peter Levine's book, Waken the Tiger, and I had just done a quick speed read through it, but didn't really read it. But I had, as God would have it, walked through a preparation so that when this happened, I tuned into your program. Just happened to be that day you taught about it, and I had that book here also I couldn't really focus in and read at the time. I was really dysregulated. But over time, then understanding what it's about. And that really, as I learned, it wasn't even just that one life-threatening event at the end of that relationship, but I was living in sympathetic state in my business and work. I had two businesses going on. I had it was the perfect storm, a lot going on, but I was living in a sympathetic state and not able to get parasympathetic balance at all. So I had led up to this whole, to this crash. And so now I'm, I have the tools. So if I get to anything else, get in that state again, but I can practice daily or off and on through the day so that I don't get disassociated. So when I feel myself getting disconnected, like you said, or out of alignment, I can go in and do the practice and get aligned right then and there. That's
what do
the
you mean
beauty
by
of this.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
What do you mean by like dysregulation? Like for you subjectively, like, because I imagine someone might be listening going, well, what's that? Like, it sounds bad, but what do you mean when you say you were dysregulated, or when the nervous system melt happened? How did that feel? What was going on that told you that you were dysregulated? How would you explain it to like someone who's never done any of this work?
Yeah. Think if I can explain what that was like, but geez, at that point I couldn't even go to work. I thankfully had delegated to my management team and they took over, and I wasn't out of focus. I needed to do the external resources all day, sometimes even in the night, which is like, I have a hot tub here, or get out or walk around the house or the yard, even just move, shake, get things. So I would get so, I couldn't really, I had to do a lot of work to stay relaxed and to keep calming myself down. And, a lot of people from reading Peter Levine's book, a lot of people, when they do a total melt like that, they melt into rage. I didn't have any rage. I melted into love. I was wild. I was wild woman. I called myself cave woman. My primal instincts were through the roof. And I wasn't fit to go out the door. But it was, so it took a while to get, get it all balanced out.
Yeah. And then what's changed, if you think about now, so it sounds like the dysregulation, it's stress, essentially. You would know this, we're in sympathetic. A lot of people are in sympathetic. It's basically stress. So all the things that come with stress, like not being able to sleep or bad choices with food or a racing mind that can be quite negative, all these different things. I don't know how did it manifest in those ways for you, or were there other different things that it did? The stress.
No, I think that it was, I don't really know. It's none of those things.
Okay.
I eat good and and I do a lot of other healing things, acupuncture and stuff like that helps me in terms of being able to sleep at night and all that. I think mostly I needed to move my body. I had been too sedentary for 5 years, and I'm very physical anyway. I'm very kinetic, and I need to always be moving. And I had just like sat, and not sat in a lazy way, sat in just like a monk on the mountain that just sits there and chants. That's what I would do: chant, and breathe, and I journal and pray. And I had to really. That's not balance either when you do that all day for 5 years, pretty much. So I think it was just a nervous energy that I had to move and work it out of my body and release it. I had been holding on. I think holding on the side of a mountain, hanging, dangling there, and you can only hold on for so long. And,
I think that's what I've done a lot of meditation too, chanting, all of that, and I think as a practice, if it's done, I guess if you get somewhere with it, it seems to bring a lot of energy, stress energy or energy up in the system. But then the problem for me, and maybe for you too, if I'm just sitting perfectly still, it's like it has nowhere to go. And I wonder if that's the problem often with some of these practices is we open the system up. So all the energy, all the stuck old energy from the past starts coming up, but we're sitting perfectly still. So it has no outlet. And so it's kind of like pumping more and more and more electricity into a house, into the wiring. Sooner or later, the fuse blows and the whole thing shuts down. And it's a bit like that with the nervous system where because the energy's all frozen and stuck because, we're not ready to handle that right now. But you meditate, the system's like, oh, okay, well, I guess you're ready. You're present enough, but it comes up. But if we're not moving, it sort of seems to fry things out a little bit. And, whereas what you're talking about, seem to be talking about is, like I've had things come up and now, there's been a lot of growling. I've mentioned this so many times, growling, like I'm a bear or a tiger or something. And it feels it's not anger. It doesn't feel like I'm angry with someone or something. It just feels like, man, this feels so good to beat my chest like I'm a gorilla and to start to take what I'm feeling and to put it into a physical expression that has been it sounds like that's what you're saying. And then the energy has something to do it. Now it's not, just dammed up inside the body. Now it can start to flow out. It kind of I guess it's like a lightning strikes the house and there's all that power. But to stop the house from burning down, you have a grounding rod that goes into the ground so it can flow. So in some ways, it's like that's what we're doing here is getting it to flow so we don't fry our nervous system to pieces.
Exactly, 100% right. That's my experience. I know dancing helped me a lot. Anything that I could just move and shake and get all of that chi out that I had just been building up and harboring, like you just said. It just got high voltage and it blew.
Yeah.
And,
Yeah, cool. And then what's changed, now? How do you feel like your life is different other than, you've mentioned being in, the supermarket, or I think the other day you mentioned, right before the gym, you can get into your body just almost instantly or stop thinking almost instantly. Are there other things or what are some of the other ways your life is different as a result of these tools?
Yeah. So, my life is complete. I'm very happy now, very happy. And creative juices are flowing. I've taken up some photography, stuff that I, have always enjoyed or thought about or enjoyed when I was younger, but never got back to. A lot of creativity is happening for me right now that's coming up, and it feels great. Doing a lot of writing. I love to write. That was another thing that came up, an awareness of that. That I as a hobby, I study Vedic astrology, and I get my charts done by different astrologers over the years, and they always would say, wow, that moon Mercury together like that in that location, you're a writer. There's such and such famous writer, and this one and that one have that. And that means you're a writer. And I would always say, I'm not a writer. And I would know before I had the reading. I'm going to start with that. I'm not a writer. And then just recently, I'm like, oh my God, I've got notebooks. I'm writing. I guess I'm really a writer. So like more awareness. Like when you made that statement about your mind and body being aligned, it really brings up so much awareness when you get into that state of your true self. And that's what I'm experiencing. Just another layer of, or a bigger, better, who I am, what I really love, and feeling the joy of that even. Starting to make new relationships and, starting to get back into the world with people that I can have like-minded friendships with. Mm. So yeah, it's been huge.
Mm. Yeah, it sounds like I don't usually talk about this that much with Rageheart because I think a lot of people are like, what is that? But a phrase that came through for me very powerfully a couple of years ago was just remember who you are. Because it's like something about this work for me was like, I forgot. I didn't even realize I forgot until I remembered. This weird, like subtle, such a subtle thing. It's like, this is the most amazing, so much of what I was just looking for was myself, my original, authentic self. And it's a back and forth thing. You sort of, I'm in and I'm out of, forget, remember. But that to me, there's all the stuff, you sleep better, you eat better, for me, or I feel better in general, happier. But a lot of it to me, the coolest part has been that of getting in touch with me. It sounds like you're saying something along those lines too, where now it's like the real you can start to come forward. Now that it's like you clear the stuff out of the way, all the old cobwebs and dust, all the energetic baggage from the past, the more that clears away, the more it's like the real you's like, oh, now it's my time to shine.
Exactly. That's exactly what I feel like. Yeah, now it's time for me because, I don't know, all those stories going on and the baggage, the history, it just gets quiet. I don't, that, and it's exhausting and it keeps me from being here. I mean, and to think that you can go through life and not even be here yet. And then you go through this, like with this program, you just get here. And that's just so great. So great.
Yeah. Yeah, cool. And then so in your own, I mean, we've been doing this probably pretty much what we've been doing the whole time, but if there's anything else you want to add, like in your own words, how would you describe, Rageheart? What really is it? You mentioned moving stuck energy. Like if you were talking to a friend and you're like, man, you got to check this out. How would you describe it?
Yeah. So, what I love it's so creative the way you have put it together. I love it and it makes it fun. But every day having a new or, being committed to every day, especially in the beginning, while you're learning this technique, and every day tuning in and you get another new lesson and exercise and just get here now right then for that. And then over time, you can do it on your own throughout the day and just stop and do that. This exercise that you teach is so simple. And that's why in the beginning, I thought there's nothing happening. But the truth is the beauty is in how simple it is. And as you practice it, it gets more and more effective as time goes on. So, and then you teach different ways to do the same thing. One of the ones when you were just like, when you just like, your head, just like be aware that your head's you're gonna move it to the right, and notice how it like starts to move on its own before you even move it. Things like that blew me away. And one time it was about see if you can like breathe in and extend your belly, and then now let that go and extend your chest, and see if you can just go back and forth.
Right.
They're great. It's great. It's great stuff, and it really just gets me right here, and there's nothing going on, and it's very energizing, and that's what allows the creativity to flow then finally when everything else stops. So, and then going through it, you have it divided into different sections, and you graduate from one, and then you can go to another, and yeah, it's very fun.
I think last time I think it was last time, I don't think we've spoken about it today, but you mentioned, it's almost like most people, they're trying to fix their mind by going into the mind. And it's like, no, you can just go to your body and you find a way. There's different doorways through the body. And then your mind calms down and quiets almost as a side effect. It's like, you don't even have to. You said something like that last time. I was like, that's a really cool way to think about it.
Yeah. So meditation, the way, what I've always heard the point of meditation, and I've tried meditating for 30 plus years, different techniques and so many types, but it's about silencing the mind. What is the point of meditation? To silence the mind. But with Rageheart, there's nothing like that. You get into your, in your different things with your body, and it's all there. You are in your body, and all of a sudden the mind follows suit, and the mind just shuts up. And that's when it's so effective. It's so much more effective than trying to sit still. And the mind doesn't silence when you try to silence it. It won't. It never will. The mind shatters. But if you bring your concentrated focus into something in your body, that's the mind the mind on its own just, it's almost like it knows you're not listening to it, so it might as well stop,
Yeah.
That's really cool. It's so much more powerful than trying to sit and silence the mind. That's just never works. Yeah. It does not work. You can calm down, but your mind is still just instantly going to keep chattering.
Yeah. It's a bit like, and how I sort of find it these days, it's like the body, so much it just wants to be felt, and the mind is just a mirror of the body. And if I'm not feeling the body, the mind's like, well, you're not fucking take care of that, so I'm going to have a tantrum up here. But if I'm like, okay, let's just take some time. Let's just go feel what's happening, wherever that is, in my hands or feet, or, go between crazy parts and calm parts. And then the body's like, oh, okay, I'm good now. And then the mind, almost like the mind it's like there's like an overflow into the mind. And when the body calms down, the mind's like, oh, I'm good now. It's all good.
Yeah. Yeah. And we talked about disassociating, but what you're trying, what happens is, because your feelings are hurting so bad, you get out of your body when, like you just said, the body needs to be felt. So if you go in and feel your body, that's the answer right there.
Yeah.
And, go in and check it all out from, by just sitting here and, feeling your body and watching it like you move on its own. You think you're going to move your head, and it's already like starting to That's really cool. And you don't have to just like move. You just like sit there. I'm going to move my head, and it starts moving. The nervous system that I think just like says, okay, I'll let me do it.
Yeah.
It's very fun stuff. It's fun to do when you do the monthly Rumble, because it's in Rageheart, each day the session is maybe 10, 20 minutes long, something like that. But the Rumble that goes on for an hour, and especially if there's other people, and we're kind of like, even though we're on Zoom, we connect somehow, even though it's through Zoom. And that makes it even a greater experience when you're doing it with somebody. And then for a full hour, by the end of the hour, wow, it's a new day, you know? So it's really great.
Yeah, I mean, it's good. It's good for me. I go in because I'm just doing, it's what I would be doing on my own usually. So I just do that. I might come in, same thing. I might come in a bit stressed or a bit whatever because I'm out of whatever's been happening that day. And then by the end of it, I'm like, woof, just feels so same thing. I'm like, this feels great. So
sometimes I get my I'm so busy and I get so much on my calendar and I get so many things I got to get done. And that's when I'm getting into danger, when I need to stop and get in the email, click on one of the rumbles. And it's like, I don't have time though. I don't have time to be here right now. I don't have time to be anywhere. I'm all over the place. And that's when I have to really say, okay, wait a minute here. This is what it's all about, is doing a rumble. And then everything seems to get more organized on its own.
Yeah, perfect. And lastly, who would you say Rageheart is for? Is it for people who, you mentioned you've done some meditation and chanting, you're monastic. So is it for, obviously it can help someone like that, but do you recommend, is it for someone who's got a spiritual thing and they're trying to become enlightened, or is it for someone else, someone who's working? Like who would you recommend or say Rageheart is good for?
So in Peter Levine's book, it's about people who have been in trauma. But I have found out since all this that people don't even think they've been in trauma. It's almost like that's their norm. And so you ask them, have experienced trauma? And you're like, no, none. And then you find out that their daily life is trauma. And they have just gotten so used to it. And then when they, something like this, if they would do it, then they would get some healing that they don't even know they need. So it's really for everybody. I mean, everybody experiences, a sympathetic nervous system being out of control. And it's for everybody who experiences the sympathetic nervous system being out of control. And that's everybody. And even the people who meditate, they're not really calming down their nervous system. They're trying to silence their mind, and they gain. I'm not saying it's useless. It is. It's helpful to everybody to what degree. I still chant. I still do breathing techniques, but that doesn't get what this work does for me, which is to get me right here, right now, right present, and free my mind. So it's for everybody. It's just it's people a lot of people think they need like I did in the beginning. There's nothing happening here, and it's too simple. But actually, that's the beauty of it. It is happening if you let it, and you don't need firecrackers to go off to make you calm down. And I think that more and more people, the more that they're introduced to this and can experience it, then if they would not just say like, oh, one day it's that quick, one pill is all it's going to take mentality that we're so used to from the medical system. Take this, prescription and you're done. It just doesn't work that way. This is a lifetime practice, and it's simple and easy and free and with you all the time. And if they would stay with the program and keep doing the daily practices, it doesn't take long when you start going, wow, this is great. This is really cool.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's been one of the big challenges. The main point of feedback that people come in with when they start Rageheart is it's too slow. Nothing's happening. It's like, okay, just give it a bit of time. Like try it out, do a little bit more. It might take some time. Everyone's different, but I've been doing this for 4.5 years now with myself, and I'm still like, how is it that 4.5 years later I'm still doing the same thing I'm teaching you and everyone in Rageheart? It's the same thing I do for myself, and it's still so simple. It gets more profound and gets deeper over time, but it's still the basic techniques. It's not like they get super advanced or anything like that, or you start levitating. It's just the same old, but you're just more refined and more subtle. And I still love it. I'm still like, how is everyone, like, I'm like, life can be hard enough with all this stuff. I'm like, how do people get through life without this? Most people don't have any of this stuff. They go through all kinds of pain and trauma and sickness and death and all kinds of things. And they don't, and I guess they don't, how they get through it is all the stuff you see, alcohol and porn and Facebook and the shopping and all the different things we do to feel or to not feel, really.
Yeah, exactly. To not feel. And, like that experience I had in the grocery store or any crowded place. You look around and people are somewhere else. They never are here. And that's so sad that they can go through a life with never really being here in their body present. Yeah. And that's so I just hope this spreads and people, more and more people, once they do it, they and go through the program, it's life-changing. It's life-changing. And it's so beautiful. It's so great to have creativity flowing and happiness and when I get off center, it's just such a simple thing to get centered again. So beautiful. Yeah, it's really great. Yeah. And you're doing a Rumble coming up. It's Saturday?
Rumble's on Saturday, yeah.
Yeah.
12 p.m. Eastern. I mean, this will be I probably won't get this live before then. So, but Saturday. Are you gonna come? You'll be there.
Yeah, I'll be there. Yeah. The last one I think I was babysitting my grandkids, but this one I'll be there.
Yeah, cool. Good to see you. So, well, I guess we can wrap it up. This feels like a good note to end on. At the Rumble on Saturday. If anyone's listening and they want to check out Rageheart, to rageheart.co. It's like Braveheart, but rageheart.co, not .com, .co. All right, my name is John Wood, and this has been Gayla, and I hope you enjoyed this interview. See you next time.